San Francisco smells like salt and bleach in the mornings. The salt is from the bay, the bleach is from the hotel sheets that have become as familiar to me as someone else's embrace. Over the past 4 months, I've learned to distinguish the noise of the air conditioner in a 3-star apartment on Van Ness from the raspy hum of a motel by the zoo. I know how the glass shakes when a bus flies by on the 19th, and how slowly a door with a card opens if you swipe it too quickly. I've become a suitcase person. Toothbrush in my makeup bag, charger in the side pocket, passport where dog treats used to be. The dog's name was Luna. 5 years is almost nothing and a lifetime. One night she started breathing as if someone was cutting metal nearby morning. X-ray, shadow in the lungs. A doctor who is too careful with words. I left the apartment without closing the closets. There was only one thought in my head. Mold allergies, reactivity, my constant headaches suddenly came together in a picture too. Clear to ignore, suitcase, carrier, taxi. In the carpeted room, I put a bowl of water and for the first time in many years buried my forehead in my knees. 2.5 weeks later, she was gone. I write this sentence like you put a tick on a checklist, quickly so as not to look. That night sank like a step, but even if you don't touch it, the depth is felt on your skin. I was crushed by such darkness that I stopped distinguishing the boundaries of objects. The doctor called in the morning, a cautious voice, someone else's kindness. Then my ex, the same person with whom we once quietly broke up, finding no one to blame, insisted that I move into his guest room. Until you get back on your feet, as long as it takes. He didn't ask, what if? Didn't try to invent a bright future for me. He just took my suitcase from the motel, bought an air mattress. If you want, we will be next to each other in the room, and said, you can keep quiet here. I was silent. I drank tea with honey in silence, silently looked out the window onto Mason Street, where garbage bins fought at night, silently responded to messages. How are you? Hang in there. We're here. The silence turned out to be warm like a sweater, but at some point, people from my old life started knocking on it. First, the realtor. The contractor is late. The acceptance certificate hasn't been signed. The tests are on a bet. Another week. Then, my neighbors. Their messages contained a lot of exclamation marks, a lot of emojis, and the same question. When will you be back? I kept paying my share, $2,200 plus utilities. San Francisco laughs in the face of those who try to save lol, as they say. My card saw hotel numbers more often than a supermarket. I counted money like a pulse. In the morning, still some. In the evening, less. There was no work. First I wrote, I'll take a break. Health. Then the break grew into a blank white wall. A crack appeared on the can with the inscription, for a rainy day. Kate is a master tenant, as we are supposed to say. She is 46, she has signs, folders, tables, colored stickers on jars of cereal, and perfect arrows on her eyes. She knows how to love order. Now her love is focused on 3 projects. A wedding instead of a draft plan. She has a roadmap of happiness in 30 sheets. A surrogacy agency, a sheet with questions on the refrigerator, the groom's immigration in WhatsApp, 5-pin chats. The last time I came to the house, before the tests, there was a poster in the kitchen with a date and urgent notes. Bouquet, approve, DJ, call, bridesmaids, dresses. Kate smiled quickly and radiantly, but the smile cracked like a lollipop if you asked about something not on the list. When will you come back? She sent voice messages. I have to plan. You see, plan our house is like an organism. It can't be without you for long. As soon as there is remediation, I answered. I can't take risks. And I swallowed the second half of the phrase, where it was, I can't do anything anymore. A week ago, I opened the bank, saw a figure that was no longer with a reserve, and suddenly it became clear. I will not pay anymore for a room to which I can't return. This is not about a gesture of goodwill, not about friendship, not about wait for me. This is about an oxygen mask from an airplane. First, unto myself. I wrote a message, rewrote the first lines for a long time so as not to sound like a demand. Kate, I want to warn you in advance. I'm moving out. 7 weeks is the final deadline. I will pay until... Then there was a date. I value you as a neighbor and a person, but now I need to stop paying for housing in which I do not live. I understand that this is inconvenient, and I am ready to help with showings, posting ads, anything I can. She called back immediately. The voice was not the one she used to congratulate her on her birthday, and not the one she used to scold the contractor. New, chopped off. Didn't they teach you that people have events? She asked without greeting. I have a wedding. I have visa windows. I have a surrogate window. You've known about this for months, and now, I'm giving you 7 weeks, I repeated. That's more than what's written in the contract. 7 weeks not working, she said as she cut the ribbon at the store opening. Move it a month later or I'll keep the deposit. That's illegal, I felt a dry laugh rise in my throat. You can't keep my deposit because my schedule is inconvenient for you. Then the friendship is over, she said, and for the first time her voice wavered. You knew about the wedding. You knew that I was counting on it. You knew. I fell silent. At such moments the old, "you can't be inconvenient" tugs at my sleeve like a strict teacher. A red light immediately lights up inside. Ask for forgiveness. Reschedule. Lie that you have a temperature. Say that you'll think about it. But somewhere nearby is a second voice. My therapist and I came up with it. It's quiet but stubborn. Take a breath. Repeat the fact. Don't explain yourself. 7 weeks, I said. I'll help with the listings. I'll help with the showings. I won't renew. You're selfish, she said. It's not the right time. Grief has no calendar, I replied, and neither does being fired nor does mold. I'm sorry my life didn't fit into the roadmap. She exhaled as if she had choked somewhere between the words witnesses and immigration. Okay, she said. Then you'll know what it's like to be a bad friend. The call was cut off. I held the phone to my ear for a long time, although there was only background hissing. My hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from habit. Because every time after no, the 5-year-old girl returns to me who is scolded for inconvenience. The ex came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder. Have you said everything? I think so. Then let's make some tea and make a list of what you need to take. Mask, gloves, I'll go with you if you want. I nodded. In the evening, we took a respirator and gloves out of the closet. We wrote down documents, box of books, vase, disc with video of the moon. I looked at this list as a route to my former self. It's funny, but the scariest item on it was call the HOA. I'm tired of other people's voices deciding when I should live. In the morning, Kate sent another message short as a bat of eyelashes. I'll put your furniture in the closet. Show on Sunday. You don't mind, do you? I typed against, erased, typed wait until Monday, erased typed, show me when I take out the things. Send in response came an emoji with raised eyes. A minute later, a PDF with an additional agreement in which in bold was written, postpone departure to a date after the wedding week. At the bottom, a field for a signature and in italics, for our friendship, nausea rolled down under my ribs. I could no longer distinguish what I should do in this picture and what would be nice. I closed my laptop, shoved my respirator into my bag, wrote to my ex, meet me at home at 3, and we drove to the Haight, where our house is, on a quiet street where the poplar leaves always tickle the wire. The porch smelled of damp wood, like an aquarium. We went up the steps, I inserted the key into the lock, inhaled through the filter, and then the phone vibrated in my pocket. Message from an unknown number 1 photo. It shows my room. Only it was no longer my world. A white round garland hung above the bed, a tablet with the inscription, seating plan on the table, champagne-colored ribbons on the wall. At the bottom, Kate's signature, I hope you don't mind me using your space for a bridal corner, it won't be for long. I looked up at the window of my room. Behind the white curtains, that same circle of lights was actually flickering. Someone was inside, and someone's dress fluttered in the doorway. The threshold smelled of the same thing, a damp rag and sweet dust, as if flour had been poured into tea. The respirator on his face immediately became not just a mask, but a boundary between before and after. The ex nodded silently. I was in front, he was behind, the doors were wide open, his hands were in gloves. It was clear from the first step, my room is no longer mine. The walls are covered with screens made of lightweight champagne-colored fabric. Glowing balls are suspended from the cornice. Lipstick samples and an eyeshadow palette with names like Wet Caramel and Rose Hip Blow are laid out on the table. On the chair is someone's sequin cape. The glitter, like mosquitoes, clung to the light. On the bed is a perfectly folded blanket, my blanket. Only on top is a seating plan secured with paper clips. Under the plan are my folders with documents pushed into a corner. Next to it, like a table leg supporting all this beauty, stood a box with Luna's things. The lid slipped off, revealing a pink leash. I nodded to my ex, who retreated to the window, opened it, and turned on the portable air purifier they had brought with them. The air jerked like a man who had been grabbed by the collar and began to dry out. Hi! Kate appeared in the doorway, as if she had floated out of her own Insta story. A smile with 10 teeth, winged eyes, a white shirt half tucked into jeans. In her arms was a cake stand with ribbons and hairpins, and also that very housewifely confidence that this house reacts to her voice. You are already here. How convenient. I am just... She stopped short when she saw the respirator on my face. Her facial expression slipped for a split second, like a sticker that had been unsuccessfully stuck onto wet glass. Oh, she said, do you really have to do this? Yes, I said. The moisture and spores are still present in the garland. Kate placed the cake stand on the table. The metal lid clanked against the wood, a sound I always heard when the miniature springs of plans were bouncing inside it. Look, she switched to a cheerful tone. I'm using your space temporarily, because the light is perfect, and I have a bridal corner here. They do their makeup here, they do their hair here, and then we'll put everything away. And you take the things. I have 3 viewings before Sunday. You don't mind, do you? I inhaled through the filter, slowly, so as not to break into a cough from the absurdity of the question. I'm against using my room without my consent, I said, and I'm against viewing it while my things are here. I wrote, I saw. She nodded too quickly. But I have a wedding, and I have immigration, and I have surrogacy. You know how delicate it is. I can't stop everything because of your— She waved in my direction, as if trying to find a word that wouldn't offend— condition. It's not a condition, I said. It's mold, and my dog's death, and my lack of work, and a budget that's gonna run out in 2 months. It's life, not a master class. She smiled even wider, like I was getting a free lip scrub. But you held on all these months. Please, just a little longer. I found 2 potential tenants. It's important for them to see the room lived in. You know? So they can feel the warmth. Is that hard for you? It's complicated, I said. And it's also illegal to keep a deposit. This is the 2nd time you've threatened me with this. Something clicked imperceptibly in the X. He moved half a step closer, became broader in the shoulders, but said very evenly, Kate, let's be honest. It smells like mushrooms in here. It looks perfect. It smells like a theater basement. If you want to show it, you'll have to take it all down and retest it, and don't do it with tape. She turned to him sharply. Who are you? A lawyer? An ecologist? And without waiting for an answer, back to me. You're being dramatic. The humidity is going away. The contractor said that almost everything is okay. The tests will be after the wedding. I can't let people in with equipment now. I have makeup artists. I have a schedule. Do you understand? Almost everything is okay. After the wedding, I can't now. The words formed a staircase that didn't lead to me. I walked to the table, carefully moved the tape, found my folder with my eyes. On the lid was a glitter imprint, like someone else's comma. I opened it. Inside were those same test reports, only on top of my copies, was a new sheet with a week-old date, post-remediation verification. I read it quickly, the names that I had learned over these months, letter by letter: Penicillium, Aspergillus elevated, Stachybotrys, trace detected, and below, in bold, not cleared, repeat remediation recommended. The sheet was printed out, and at the top, in black pen, was written received. Next to it was Kate's signature, familiar to me, her confident tail of the letter K. I looked up. You knew, I said. You signed that the house didn't pass the post-inspection. She swallowed as if washing down the phrase with warm water. That's why we can't let anyone in now, neither the contractor nor you. You'll stir everything up. And she squeezed the cake stand. I have a date. If we screw up the date, everything will shift. The photographer, the visas, the hall, the agency. And my health isn't a date? I asked. My voice sounded quieter than I expected. And my room isn't a date? And Luna's leash is also part of the decor? We both, my ex and I, looked at the box. The pink leash was sticking out like a subtle irony. Kate noticed our gaze, turned around and said almost with relief, "Oh God, take him, of course. I didn't think that I thought you'd be pleased that he was back in the room. Warm memories, you know?" I carefully put the leash back in, closed the box, securing the lid with the tape my ex had brought. My hands stopped shaking. There was an emptiness inside, but it wasn't about powerlessness. It was about clarity, like a washed window. Look, Kate straightened her shoulders as if she was about to lead a rally. Give me 5 weeks. I'll find a replacement myself. Do everything, signings, deposits, everything. You'll take yours when it's all over. I promise. Cleaning, tests, everything. Just don't ruin it now, okay? It won't be nice. It's not nice when you put my box under the seating plan, I said calmly, and when you keep the deposit under threat, and when you hide the report. She twisted her lips as if from something sour. You always knew how to speak beautifully and choose moments, Kate. The ex intervened. We're picking up our things today. The room is no longer a playground. If you want, I'll help you take down the garlands so that nothing gets torn. But the shows are after, and the tests are before. There's no other way. It's my responsibility. Kate lifted her chin. I'm the master tenant, and I decide how to manage the space. I answer to the landlord. You answer to the law and common sense, I said. And to friendship, if that means anything anymore. 7 weeks is more than I owe, and I can't bear it. We started packing the former, silently, clearly, books, in boxes, cords, in a bag, documents, in a plastic folder. Me, slowly like an archaeologist. Cassettes with Lunan's videos, a sweater that smelled of sea salt and dust, 3 cups whose broken ears fit together like a perfect puzzle. Kate stood in the middle, like a conductor whose orchestra suddenly everyone got up and left with the scores. This, she pointed to the white clothes in the case. Don't touch it. It's hanging here because of the light. I'm not touching yours, I said, and you're not touching mine anymore. She snorted as if she had knocked an invisible crumb off her lips with her tongue. You'll regret this, she said. And people don't like those who ruin other people's holidays. People like those who don't lie, I replied, and who don't hide bad reports under someone else's seating plan. We lowered the first batch of boxes to the car. The stairs smelled of paint and other people's perfume. I squatted near the entrance, just to feel the concrete on which you do not lose your balance. The ex sat down next to me the same way. We were silent. The ringing of the metal lid of the cake stand was heard from above. Kate was removing the corner, angry at each hairpin. You're holding up well, he said quietly. Where did you get this even? In those 3 hotels where no one asked, when are you coming back, I said, and also at the Moons. She's been trying very hard to breathe evenly in recent days. He nodded, and I almost smiled inside, not because it was easier, but because I was no longer alone with someone else's plan. Second visit. The room already looked smaller. Without books, without clothes, without framed photos, the walls began to creak. I crawled to the outlet where I always charged my phone to remove the extension cord, and saw a black laptop under the table, not mine. On the lid was a sticker that I would recognize in any crowd, a heart with the inscription, Bride Boss. Kate seemed to have forgotten it when she brought the cake plate. The screen was half closed, but the indicator was flickering. I wasn't going to dig around, but the laptop woke up on its own. We must have bumped into the table. An open letter popped up on the screen. I only saw the first lines, and that was enough. Dear Matt, thank you for agreeing to postpone the final post-remediation check until the 15th. As I already explained, we have a big family and immigration event, and it's critical for me to keep the interior in working order until the wedding. The smell has decreased. Everything looks great visually. It doesn't bother any of the residents they support. After the event, I promise not to bother anyone and sign all the acts. Let's not send the report to the neighbors ahead of time. I don't want to provoke unnecessary anxiety. The landlord's name was in the to line. Below is an attached PDF with that same not cleared. And the chain, the landlord responded, understood. And in the copy is the name of my second neighbor, who supports. My throat was so tight that even a respirator couldn't help. I took a photo of the screen without touching the keys. My ex, without asking questions, closed the lid and moved the laptop to the edge of the table. There was a rustling sound at the door. Kate returned with a bag of garbage. She saw me standing at the table and immediately smiled. Predatory, but evenly. Don't touch my laptop, she said. It's a violation. Don't touch my life, I said. That's also a violation. She looked towards the window where the garland had given up its last light. You don't understand, Kate said quietly. How tightly I hold everything so that no one gets hurt. They've already suffered, I replied, and nodded at the box with the leash. And not just people. We carried out the last box. In the hallway, there was only the shadow of my furniture and her white clothes in a cover, which hung like someone else's question mark. I closed the door of the room and put my palm to the cold handle. This was my room and it's gone now. It was drizzling outside. The sun was stuck somewhere between the houses. I put the last box in the trunk, slammed the lid, and for the first time in 4 months, I felt tired not from running, but from finishing. My ex and I exchanged glances. He wanted to say something, maybe, we made it, or let's eat. I nodded. The phone vibrated. A message from Kate. Okay. If so, tomorrow at 12, the first couple will be shown. The room should be accessible. Leave the key with the neighbor. And please don't make a scene. I can't be stressed. I have hormones. I was about to turn off the screen when the second line dropped below like a knife under my skin. Also, I have access to your room. I'm a master tenant. Don't force me to use it. I raised my head and saw the light flashing in the window of my room again. And behind the white curtain was the silhouette of a person who was not Kate. The light in the window flared up like a lamp in an X-ray room. Too white, too even. The silhouette behind the curtain was tall, broad-shouldered, and it was definitely not Kate. My ex and I exchanged glances. Everything inside me became viscous, like honey. Viscous and sticky. My hand automatically reached for the phone. Camera recording, time I zoomed in on the window. The curtains trembled, the silhouette stepped towards the table and leaned over as if examining the seating plan. Call? The ex asked with his lips alone. I nodded, and instead of 911, I dialed Kate. My fingers under my gloves slid slightly across the screen. She answered right away, as if she had been expecting the call on that very breath. Yes? The voice is even, businesslike. "Who's in my room?" I asked, and I didn't recognize my own voice. It was too calm. A short pause, a barely audible breath. "Stylist," she said. "We're moving some of the stuff. Don't be dramatic." I looked at the window. Silhouette passed by the curtain. Silhouette in a jacket. Man stylist, maybe, but not hers. "He's wearing a jacket," I said. "We have a trial run for the groom today," she snapped. "Please don't interfere. You've already taken your things out." The ex raised an eyebrow. "Let's go?" I nodded. We walked back up. The lock clicked without resistance. My keys were still keys. The respirator on my face no longer seemed foreign, as if I was wearing it to talk, not to argue. The room smelled of white wine and hairspray. A man stood by the window, smiling sheepishly as he looked at himself in the black mirror of my closet. Dark-haired with tanned arms, in a jacket that sat the way jackets sit on people who are used to wearing t-shirts. He turned around and saw us. The first thing he did was take a step back. The second thing he did was put his hand to his chest. "Sorry," he said softly with an accent. "Kate said the room was free. I'm just an example. Big meeting tomorrow." Kate appeared in the doorway, her back straight and her smile strained. "This is Amir," she said, as if introducing the host of the show. She paused for a split second. "Fiancé. He's seeing an immigration lawyer tomorrow. The suit needs to fit. There's good light here." The word groom sounded like an argument. I caught Amir's gaze. Honest, a little confused. He looked like a man who had been placed in the center of someone else's coordinates. In his hand was a bag of cufflinks. On his finger was a barely noticeable scratch. "Kate said it was a guest room," he said guiltily, "that the owner had already left." "I'm the owner," I replied and nodded at the boxes. "Until the date I announced. And this isn't the guest room, this is my bedroom," in which the post-verification wrote, "Not cleared." Kate turned her head sharply. "Why this now?" she whispered, and the glass balls of the garland tinkled in the whisper. "You see that the man arrived from the plane. He is not to blame for your— She hesitated. "For your situation." "It's not his fault," I agreed. "And it's not my fault that you force us all to fit your schedule. He can't be here because of the mold. And I can't. And your makeup artist can't." Amir looked from her to me, like someone trying to decide what the main language is here. "I don't want problems," he said quietly. "They told me it's okay here. If it's not okay, I'll leave." Kate flushed. "You're not going anywhere. This is our home and I'm telling you." She turned to me. "Stop it. 5 weeks isn't critical for you. Everything is critical for me." "It's critical for me not to have another attack," I said. "You signed your reports." I took that same sheet out of the folder and put it on the table, like you put a card face up. "And you managed to swear at the contractor in the letters. I also saw, 'Let's not send the report to the neighbors ahead of time.' Remember?" Kate's face went pale, not from the revelation but from the fact that someone had torn out a page from her roadmap. Her lips tightened. "It's secondary," she said. "I'm doing everything I can to make sure no one gets hurt. They've already suffered," I repeated quietly. "And now you want to put your fiancé in a room where it's not cleared, so it looks good on your calendar." Amir stepped forward, his palms open like a man who wants to seat everyone at the table. "Kate, I can try it on in the living room," he said softly, "or in the photographer's studio. No need to argue." "The light in the living room is bad," she said. "The light is fine," said the man at the window. "And there's a mirror in the hallway." Kate exhaled so long that it felt a little damp under my mask. Then she shrugged. "Okay, please, in the living room." And to Amiru, already in a different tone, "Sorry, it's just, everything is piled up." He nodded. He squeezed past us, smelling of something citrusy and good anxiety. The three of us were left alone. Kate closed the door behind him, leaned against it. For the first time all day, her posture seemed human. "You're destroying me," she said quietly. "I'm holding 7 plates on chopsticks and you knocked out 2. I just stopped being one of the plates," I said. "That's different." She looked at me for a long time. There, in that gaze, little workers were running around, correcting arguments, gluing emotions with insulation. Then she went to the table, took the cake stand, put the lid on, took the garland off the cornice. Her movements were sharp but neat. Kate, even in anger, remains Kate. "Do what you want," she said without looking, "but leave the key with your neighbor. And please be a human being. I have a rehearsal tomorrow. I can't stand another scene." "I don't make scenes," I replied. "I make boundaries." My ex and I took out a couple more bags. On the landing, I saw a letter on the doormat, a white envelope wet at the corners from the drizzle. It had my name on it, but in the lower right, another line, C.O. Amir. Sender, a neat blue stamp, USCIS. I froze with the envelope in my hand as if I was holding a mug that was too hot. "It's not for you," Kate said, instantly appearing next to her. "It's through you. Just an address for correspondence." "It's okay." I turned the envelope over. The words were visible through the paper. Appointment notice. Date. Time. Tomorrow 9 o'clock address. In the letter, name, his residence address. Hours. You used my address, I said, and everything inside me suddenly went cold, almost pleasantly, like when you put ice on a bruise. In my contract, I am the only tenant of the room. You used my address without my consent. It doesn't technically change anything, Kate said quickly. You're moving out anyway. They just need paper. Don't make a big deal out of it. You're the one making paper out of me, I said, on which you can conveniently stick your stickers. I took a photo of the envelope, put it back on the table by the entrance, and immediately wrote to Matt, the landlord. Unauthorized entries. Post-verification not cleared ignored. Room used for non-tenant purposes. USCIS mail routed via my name without consent. Please acknowledge and confirm no further entries without 24-hour notice. Attached evidence. Last month, I would have been shaking every time I hit send. Now my finger lay flat. The response arrived faster than I expected. Acknowledged no showings us entries without proper notice remediation team scheduled. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Notice attached master tenant notified thank you. The notification attached to the letter was 24-hour notice of entry for remediation. I looked up at Kate. She was already reading the same thing. The phone in her hand lit up with a cold light. Her face became motionless like a mannequin's. She inhaled slowly and exhaled slowly, even more slowly than before. Tomorrow? She asked in an empty voice. Tomorrow, I said, at 8. The room is not a playground. The front door slammed downstairs. Amir returned, already without a jacket, with a bag of cufflinks in his pocket. He raised his eyes, looked in at us, in the doorway. He caught the mood on the fly. He smiled carefully. Is everything okay? He asked quietly. Kate didn't answer. She stood there with the phone in her hand, like a ticket for a canceled flight. I nodded to Amir. People in white overalls will come here tomorrow. It's better not to plan anything here and stay away. Of course, he said. Thank you. We parted. He to the living room, we to the car. The rain turned into fine grains. It beat on the hood like gray bees. I sat down, rested my forehead on the steering wheel, and suddenly laughed. Quietly on the exhale. The ex turned around. What? I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. I imagined how her road map collided with people in white spacesuits, and how for the first time in a long time, processes would be controlled not by stickers, but by reality. The phone beeped a message from an unknown person. Thank you for the room, the suitcases are already at the door. Photo. A dark corridor of our apartment at my door. 2 yellow suitcases with airport tags. In the shadows. A strange silhouette. Not a mirror under the photo. A heart. I looked at the screen, then at the window of my room, where the light flashed again for a second, like lightning. And at that moment I understood. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, 3 forces will meet on the porch. Contractors in white suits, Kate with her wedding, and other people's suitcases, whose already does not fit into any schedule. And I, standing in the middle, with a key that is still mine, and a letter that came in my name. The morning was so quiet that I had time to think. Maybe everything had cleared up. A fine drizzle was knocking on the windowsill, and the city seemed in no hurry to wake up. But exactly at 7:42, a white gazelle with a green sign on the side appeared on the street below. Environmental Remediation Services. 2 people in white overalls and masks began unloading boxes with equipment, bags with filters, plastic screens. Their movements were calm, measured, like those of surgeons preparing an operating room. At 7:50, Amir approached the entrance. He was holding a plastic folder with a polite smile on his face and slight bewilderment in his eyes. He was dressed in jeans and a light jacket without a trace of yesterday's fitting room pathos. Seeing me at the door, he nodded, but his gaze lingered on the white car. Today is the cleaning? He asked quietly. Today, I answered. And it's better if you're not here at that moment. He frowned slightly as if weighing whether to argue, but then shrugged. Okay, I still need to see a lawyer. At 7:55, Kate came out. She was wearing a tracksuit. Her hair was pulled back into a tight ponytail. Her face was bare, but with that special cold composure that I had already learned to recognize. In one hand was a cup of coffee, in the other a phone. She didn't even look at me, but immediately went up to the team, said something in a sharp tone, waving her hand towards the door. They nodded silently and moved inside. We have a wedding rehearsal today, she said, turning to me. After all, we could have waited until Monday. It's not me who decides, I replied. It was your letter to the contractor with, let's not show the report to the neighbors, that decided it. She bit her lip and turned away. When the team entered my room, I caught the smell. Sharp, medical, with notes of something sour, like industrial cleaning products. They installed plastic walls with zippers, turned on noisy filters, and the entire corridor was filled with a hum. I stood by the door and felt a strange feeling growing inside me, a mixture of relief and anger. Relief because finally something was happening. Anger because this should have happened 4 months ago. They appeared at the door, the owners of yesterday's yellow suitcases. A couple, a short woman with bright red lipstick and a tall guy in a black baseball cap. They dragged the suitcases onto the landing, placed them against the wall, and began to quietly talk. "Do you need help?" I asked, although I knew perfectly well that I wasn't going to help. "We're going to see Kate," the woman said. "She said we can stay here for now. The room is free." I felt a switch click under my ribs. Everything became crystal clear. Kate had decided to rent out my room temporarily before I left, counting on me swallowing it. "The room is not free," I said evenly. "It is being renovated and I am still a tenant. You do not have a contract and you cannot stay here." "But Kate said," the guy began, but I interrupted. "Kate is not a landlord and she can't control my lease." I took out my phone, opened the conversation with Matt, and showed them the message about no showings entries without 24-hour notice. The woman frowned, the guy shrugged. "We'll go to the hotel then, but we'll come back when she says so." "You won't come back," I said, and this time there wasn't a single note in my voice, because tomorrow I'm officially handing over the keys. At that moment, Kate came out of the kitchen. Seeing the three of us, she stopped as if she had crashed into an invisible wall. Her gaze darted to the suitcases, then to me. "What kind of circus is this?" she asked. "These are your guests," I answered, "whom you were going to put in my room." She took a step forward and I saw her jaw twitch. "I thought we could come to an agreement. We should have agreed 4 months ago," I said quietly. "And now we're breaking up." There was a pause, heavy as lead. Then Kate turned away and walked past us into her room, slamming the door. Half an hour later, the team finished, leaving behind clean walls, the smell of ozone and silence. I walked into the room. Everything looked the same but felt different. The air was fresh, the light was brighter, and a strange feeling appeared inside me that I had finally returned to a place where I could breathe. At 10 a.m., I placed the keys on the kitchen table, took a photo of them, and sent the photo to Matt. "Keys left, room vacated," I wrote. As I was leaving the apartment, I heard Kate's door open behind me. "You know," she said, "you ruined my life at the most important moment." I stopped, turned around, and looked her straight in the eyes. "No, Kate, I just stopped letting you ruin my life." And with that, she left. The air outside was cool and clean. I walked to the car, and for the first time in months, my head was quiet. No lists, no other people's dates, no "be kind, postpone your plans." Just me, free from the apartment, from Kate, from the eternal guilt before everyone. And somewhere deep inside, there is a tiny but real joy that this time I chose myself.